So I'm going to be making 4 recipes from the book today. Those of you that are going to the lunch will get to taste them. Those of you cheap bastards that didn't sign up probably won't. So, yeah, anyway, just kidding. Okay, so, oh, sorry, there's a kid here, right? But Stacy, where are you? Stacy here? Good, okay. You know, when there's kids, I'm actually, well, listen, if you really want to see the PG version of Chef AJ, just come to when I do the presentations in the Adventist Church, and then perfect. All right, so we're going to do things a little bit out of order because things have to be done when they're going to be done. So people ask me all the time, what is your favorite recipe in the book? And so I probably will say the rustic fruit tart. And as we go along, I'll explain how it can be turned into 3 different desserts. The reason I love it is because I can literally have it ready in 5 minutes if company comes unexpectedly, simply by not baking the tart shells, which I'll talk about when we make the dough, why you may or may not want to bake them. But the first thing we want to do is macerate the fruit. We have these beautiful strawberries and some blueberries, and here I have some raspberries. Any fruit can be used. Macerate simply means to soften with a liquid. So sometimes in fancy restaurants, you'll see vanilla ice cream with macerated berries. And yes, they will have sugar in them. They're macerated in a sugar syrup. But you can use any liquid to macerate. We could just take water. We could take a little bit of orange juice or pineapple juice. What I'm going to do is macerate them in a little bit of balsamic vinegar. That's what my preference is. And I use the California balsamic vinegars because I love them and they come in so many fruity flavors. So I might pair this with a strawberry vinegar, a peach. You're only using 1 or 2 tablespoons for several cups of fruit. And the truth is if you didn't want to do this, if you were just to buy frozen berries and defrost them, you would basically have macerated berries. So what that macerated berries, they'll just be softer, so it'll be more like a cooked texture. The truth is if you cut up your berries in advance, they kind of start macerating on their own, and they start seeping the liquid. So that is one thing you can do. Now, if you're going to use a hard fruit, and I've tried just about every fruit for these tarts, a hard fruit like an apple or a pear, they're not going to macerate. But anything that's like a berry, a peach, a plum, a fig, you can macerate and get them soft. At times, these little shells I'm going to make are so easy. I keep them in my pantry at all times in a Ziploc bag. They last for months. And then truthfully, when I don't eat dessert every single day, but like let's say we decided we want it, within minutes we can have this dessert. And what's nice is you can make the size of the crust big, is miniature, big, or any size you want. And so when I haven't had ripe fruit in the house, I've taken just a can of unsweetened pineapple, drained it, and that would be my filling. And so we have some reduced balsamic here. Regular balsamic, in my opinion, is going to be too sour. The difference between reduced balsamic and regular balsamic, Dr. Goldhammer calls the reduced balsamic soda pop vinegar because it's sweet, but it's sweet not from sugar, because any sugar occurring in balsamic vinegar is going to be from the grapes, which are naturally, carbohydrates. So you're going to say, oh my God, it's sugar. Well, it's from the fruit. So you can take balsamic vinegar, regular. Costco has a wonderful organic balsamic vinegar, by the way. And by simply boiling it, you cook it. First you start it high and then you lower it, and it takes like maybe 45 minutes. You get this thick syrup on your own. But you don't really save any money doing it that way, and you certainly don't save time. And now it's pretty easy to find reduced balsamic vinegar. I've seen it at Walmart. Trader Joe's has a glaze. So I don't really measure. I'm just going to squirt it in. Like, we don't need a lot. We don't want the overwhelming flavor to be balsamic vinegar. And sometimes it just depends. I might put some chopped mint in here, finely chopped mint. I'm not going to do that this time. And depending on who I'm serving, I might put some cacao nibs in. But we have other desserts with chocolate, so there's no need to put chocolate in this one. But that's it. I didn't put very much in. And so what we're going to do is, because this is going to be served with the lunch, we're going to put those back, and we're going to let them sit for a while. The longer they sit, the more they'll macerate. And for the one that I'm doing here, I'm just going to use the other one just a little bit, and you can take that back. I mean, the macerated berries, this can be a dessert, by the way. And especially if you find yourself with dessert that's not sweet, fruit that's not sweet, you might want to macerate it. And if it's really, because sometimes, strawberries have their season. They're my favorite fruit, but sometimes they're not sweet. So guess what? If that's the case, then maybe macerate it in just a tiny, tiny bit of date syrup. So That is the cool thing about macerated berries. And what you can do with macerated berries is you can serve it over your oatmeal. You can serve it over your chia pudding. You can serve it on your banana and ice cream. So there's a lot of things you can do with macerated berries. Yeah. It sounds like a dirty word, macerate, doesn't it? Hey, you want to macerate with me later? I know you do. I know you do. You do. That's right. Okay. So let me ask you a question. How many times have you macerated today? Yeah. Is Mark still here? Because this is Mark's joke. Oh, no, the other Mark. Sorry. You raise your hand. Why would you assume I'm talking about you? Yeah. Well, this is not my joke, but Mark told it the other night. What the heck? So so this way, by telling you that it's his joke, if it's not funny or offensive, we can blame Mark Huberman. So because macerate made me think of this. So I don't script my presentations. It's whatever happens to come out of my mouth. So this guy goes to the doctor. Actually, he was a urologist, and the urologist says, listen, Mr. Schwartz, you're going to have to stop masturbating. And he goes, well, why? He goes, because I'm trying to examine you. So, yeah, okay. So, there we go. But maceration you can do legally, guilt-free, just like these desserts. That's what the subtitle of the book is, Guilt-Free Treats Sweetened Naturally with Fruit. I'm just warming up, folks. It's going to get a lot worse, trust me. Trust me. Okay, so let's make the crust. All right. So traditional pie crusts are made out of flour, white flour generally. I mean, maybe there's some whole wheat ones. They're made out of some kind of fat source. It could be Crisco shortening. It could be oil. It could be butter. Not much sugar in crust, but there's definitely salt. And so when I met Dr. Goldhammer, SOS-free was a word that I continued to use. But when I was teaching my ultimate weight loss program, which I don't do anymore, I used to be 70 pounds heavier before learning about this. I was vegan. Actually, I've been vegan 47 years and 2 weeks as of today. So that's pretty cool. Thanks. They were understanding no sugar, no oil, no salt, but a lot of the people in the program were still having flour and they were still having alcohol. And I'm like, don't you understand? But it wasn't in the acronym SOS. And Dr. Goldhammer said, well, of course, they're refined carbohydrates. And I said, but not everybody understands that. So I changed it to SOFAs free, sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, because there's people that just don't understand that flour and alcohol can have the same effect, especially if you're a food addict or a sugar addict. Flour and alcohol and sugar are kind of like opposite sides of the same coin. So my pie crust is made out of things that you would eat as food. Oats, for example, and dates. And so we're starting with the rolled oats. I'm just assuming these were the gluten-free, but I don't know. But I'm gluten-free since 2012 by necessity, but I always did everything gluten-free because there's always at least one pain-in-the-ass person like me that can't have something. So it's just easier. It's easier to do something that's gluten-free, then everybody can enjoy it. So, these are oats, and these are rolled oats. And, I guess you could use oat flour. The thing is, oat flour is going to be more expensive than just grinding it yourself. And the truth is if you didn't want to even grind it in the food processor, once it's mixes with the dates, it's fine. Actually, yesterday, I didn't do this first step because I was kind of in a hurry. So everything here has been pre-measured, which is a great technique for you to do when you do your own food prep. I want you to think about when you're making food, even if nobody's watching, do what we did. This is called mise en place. This will make it go so much quicker by not having to run to the pantry and to the refrigerator every time you need an ingredient. Get it all out, measure it. That's what they teach you the first day of culinary school, and that I think is the most important tip or trick I can give people, especially people that are trying to adopt a healthy lifestyle and are struggling and wanting to do batch cooking. Do your mise en place. And so food processor fitted with the S-blade. You want to make sure your food processor is dry because otherwise it will turn into a pesto. And as wonderful as blenders are and the Vitamix, I don't recommend them for most desserts. I think I know the Vitamix has a food processor attachment, but in general I do recommend a food processor for desserts. And if you can and you don't have one, the Breville is the mother of all food processors, the Breville Sous Chef. It's the biggest one that I've ever seen, other than the RoboCube, which is like $3,000 and only restaurants get it. So we're just going to grind this into a flour-like or breadcrumb consistency. And again, there can be, you know, pieces of oats. I don't care if it's a little piece of oats. I kind of like it. That's why I call it rustic fruit tart. Now, these are pitted dates. These are deglet noir. And they say pitted, but 99% of the times there will be one pit in there, and you'll know right away because your food processor slows down. So the thing about dates is they're all delicious. Some are sweeter than others. The medjool are definitely sweeter, but the thing is, the medjool are 3 to 4 times more expensive as the deglet noir. And so if you're gonna eat a date because you like dates and wanna have a snack, you know, you might want to go with the pricier medjool or the bari date. But for desserts, I really recommend the deglet noir because they tend to be often a little bit drier, which is good when you're rolling crusts. And if you have a Costco near you, they're $2.69 a pound. I've never seen any prices lower than that anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the food processor until it starts to slow down and a ball starts to form. And what I'm doing here, you can do, if you didn't want to use oats, for whatever reason, you can substitute an equal amount of nuts. In most of my dessert recipes, and we talk about the substitutions in the book, nuts and dates, or, oats and nuts, or seeds and nuts, or those three are pretty much interchangeable. You'll get the same kind of idea. We're kind of creating a Lara bar. So the oats are our flour, and the dates are our sugar. You just have to let it run. With this Breville, it's like 15 seconds. It's so powerful. You just gotta wait. What's cool about the Breville, and again, I'm not an affiliate for Breville. They don't even do that. But there's a little timer on it, and it you recognize how many seconds it will take. This Cuisinart's good too, though. Breville's just really very powerful. But you want to make sure you get at least a 12 cup. I believe this is the 12 cup. 14's better, 16's even better. Because you can always do a big recipe, a small recipe in a big machine, but not the other way around. It's starting to slow down. When it starts to slow down, what I do is I just grab a little, yeah, it's perfect. I mean, that is so easy. That's the crust. And this recipe came to be, we moved from Southern California, Los Angeles, to the desert for 3.5 years. And we ended up moving to Northern California. And I had the opposite of a housewarming party when I left, a goodbye party. And it was from 2 to 5. Actually, Nate Gershfeld came, I remember. And we made all this food. We were moving in 2 days afterwards. And this couple got lost coming from LA, and they showed up at 10 to 5. Well, at 4:30, almost everybody was gone. We gave away all the food, and there was like no food. And so I had these ingredients, and this is when I developed this recipe. I didn't bake it at the time. I did it as a raw recipe, but it was fantastic because they loved it. So we have our crust here. The way you know it's ready is you just grab it into a ball. And if you can break the ball without it crumbling, that's called the break point. It's ready. So I'm just going to pour this on top of my parchment paper. What I like to use at home more than parchment paper is silicone, or either a silicone mat or it's called a Silpat, a reusable one. So that's what I do at home. But this is fine too. And so depending on how many pies we want, we can actually take a fluted pie tart and just press all this crust in. But we need to make a few more for the people that are coming to lunch. And so what I usually just do is kind of roll it into equal balls so that they're all roughly the same size. The ones that we did for the tasting, though, we made them a little bit smaller. But I just want to show you that you can do them in different sizes. And you could eat this. I mean, this is fine. It doesn't have to be baked. But the reason I like to bake it for just 5 minutes is just to take the little bit of stickiness off, and then I know that they will last for months in my Ziploc bag in my pantry. I've never did the raw runs that way. So what's cool about this recipe is the only ingredient, what Mark was saying about having few ingredients, I strive to have all my recipes have 7 ingredients or less, not counting water, and not to have ones that you have to like buy somewhere else. So if I put vanilla powder in here. If you didn't have it, it would be fine. So basically we're talking 2 ingredients now. But if you took this base recipe and added cinnamon, now we have what's called a snickerdoodle, and that's a cookie, which is really delicious. And the other thing you can do with this recipe, which is probably one of the recipes I make the most in the book because it only makes 6 cookies, and I just don't want to have like a ton of dessert all the time. So what you do is after you make the ball, you just press your thumbprint in, and you make like a little bird's nest, and then you fill it with your favorite fruit sweetened jam, which you can make with a recipe in my book called chia jam, which is just frozen fruit, fresh fruit, chia seeds, dates if it's not sweet, or you can buy fruit sweetened jam everywhere now, my favorite being raspberry. I like to make the hole as big as possible and then really fill it with jam, and so that's one of my favorite recipes as well. So then, do you know how to do these? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to have AJ's angels do the rest. and so what we're going to do is at whatever size ball we have, I'm just going to press it down with my palm, and then I'm going to keep flipping it over so it doesn't stick. And however big the lip is, you're going to have more room for the fruit. I don't know if you can see that these are starting to get a little bit soft. So it is sticky, and that's why I prefer not to do it as a raw food dessert, because it just feels so sticky, and I think it's nice when it's a little bit drier. Now, if somebody is a raw foodist, and I have a couple of friends that strictly eat raw food, they can make this recipe because you can buy raw sprouted oats now, and instead of cooking it in the oven, they cook it in a food dehydrator, or not cook it, but dry it. So this recipe is suitable for raw foodists. And so then what we're going to do is we're just going to build up the sides, and then we're going to bake it at 325 for 5 minutes. And it's going to just take the little, if you over bake it though, it will be so hard that you will not be able to, eat it with your mouth. You'd have to like soak it. So again, if you really want this perfect, you can buy little tins with the fluted edge and then press it. So we could spend as much or as little time as we want. I like having a bigger lip if possible so that we can fill it with more fruit. And so if you just want to make these, thank you so much. And we'll move on to the next recipe. So we're going to be making something called the Peanut Butter Paradise Parfait. And one component of it is the chocolate crumbs. And so I'm going to show you the chocolate crumbs right now. And then I'm going to show you how you can turn the chocolate crumbs into yet another recipe. Almost all the recipes in all my books, including the 157 recipes in my dessert book, are fairly easy to make because I don't like things that are too complicated. So we're going to take our walnuts. And is that 2 cups? God, that just looks... Okay, so we are going to grind these into a flour-like consistency. If we let the food processor keep running, we would get walnut butter, which is fine, but we don't want that for this particular recipe. Okay, then we're going to add our cocoa powder with our vanilla powder. And we are using Decadent. It's a really good brand. My favorite brand, if you can find it, is called, what's it called? Okay, I was going to say Scharfenberger, but that's the doctor. I think it's called what's it called? Oh, no. It's called Valrhona. Why is Scharfenberger chocolate? Okay, good, but he's also a doctor. Okay, is he a doctor? Is he chocolate? Okay, so mine is Valrhona, which I've only seen at Whole Foods. It's so expensive that most of the time I just buy Hershey's Dark at Walmart, honestly, because I do like the darker color in general, but it's all good. And my husband and I, we can't eat chocolate for different reasons. It gives me migraines, it gives him this. So we use carob, and it works great. And also, generally, for me, because I need to eat a little bit lower on the fat spectrum if I want to maintain my svelte physique, I use oats in this. So that's what's great. They're interchangeable. Because oats, compared to other grains, are pretty high in fat. They're like 20% as opposed to rice, which is about 1%. So they have a great mouthfeel and a great texture. So now what we're going to do is the same thing that we did with the pie crust. But we're not going to let it run as far. Because if we do, we're going to get chocolate pie crust, which is great. We want it to be like a crumble. Like if you've ever been to restaurants and seen desserts called like, they're made with Oreo crumbs, or often called mud pie or dessert, what we're doing is doing crumbles. And there's actually a recipe in the book for a vanilla version of this that I like to make for my husband and myself. But the chocolate goes very well with the peanut butter. So we're not gonna run it as long. And then we're going to check it. See how it's crumbs? Now, if I try to make it stick together, see how it doesn't? That's the difference. So for crumbs, we don't want it to stick together. But here's the fun thing. I'm going to take out the crumbs that I need, put them in here, and then I'm going to show you, let's turn it into another recipe in the book, which is called BRAWnies, which are raw brownies. So let me just get a little bit out. Here we go. I'm trying to figure out how much we need for the dessert, but I want to have enough in here to show you how cool this is. And this, right away, I remember, actually it was Brian Wendell, the executive producer of Forks Over Knives, came over once and we didn't have dessert, and I quickly made these brownies. When you make them, you can just press them into a square or like Pyrex. You can get, what I love to use is it's a brownie mold with 24 cavities. They're not that expensive, and then each one is like perfect, and you can press a walnut in it. So I like to do that. Or we can roll it into balls, which is what I'm going to do. But I want to just make sure I have enough for the mousses that we're going to make for the parfaits. Anybody know what parfait means? Yeah, perfect in French, because they are perfect desserts. All right, so I think this is probably enough. So we can have this for the desserts that we need to plate for the lunch. So now we're just going to let it run like we did and watch what happens. Takes a minute. When they have lists of what is the most craved food, guess what's number one? Yeah, chocolate. And number two is pizza. But sometimes when you Google it, they reverse. So, yep. When they've asked women which would they'd rather give up for 30 days, sex or chocolate, guess what they said? Yeah. It is a powerfully addictive food. And a pleasure trap food, however, because we're using it in a way without dairy, which is addictive, and without refined sugar, it's better. Go away. Okay, so now we squeeze it in a ball. Can the ball? Yes, we can. So now what we can do is we can make little balls. Go away. Go away. So you can see how my hand is greasy? That shows you. Nuts are about 90% oil, so I might have gone a little farther. If I had some cocoa, do we have cocoa powder? We can get it? So I want to show you what we do, because this is, what we do is we take a paper towel to get this little bit of oil off. But what I'll do is we'll roll it, and that will be a good thing. And then, then I can start throwing it to people in the audience. And if you, okay. Yeah. This is what I'm known for, throwing food at people. Yeah. So now, if you want to, you can take something in a bowl. You could take hemp seeds. You could take sesame seeds. You could take unsweetened coconut, or a true truffle often has cocoa powder over it. This is going to make it maybe a little bit less sweet, but it's going to make it really kind of pretty when you do this. Okay. Who wants the special ball? Okay. Okay, excuse me. You're in the front row. You're wearing a baseball hat, and you missed. Okay? I don't know if they'll get a second chance. Just kidding you. Okay. The last one. All right. So I just want to say, when you press it into a brownie pan, what I like to do is put a walnut half or a little piece of walnut on top, especially if I'm going to a potluck. A lot of times we have to put the ingredients out. People have allergies, and by showing that there was a walnut on it. People with nut allergies know that there's a nut in it. But since you guys were watching, I don't have to do that. All right, last one, last one. Very good. Next we're going to do the peanut butter mousse for the Peanut Butter Paradise Parfait. Luckily, we have 2 containers here. So you could probably just wipe it out. Yeah. If you want, this is more important because this will have to go first. Okay, so what we're going to do, we have all our ingredients measured. Just every now and then when you macerate, you can just stir them up. If I have time, I want to show you how to make a strawberry fan and a strawberry rose. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our ingredients here, which are our peanut butter, 100% just peanuts, no salt. Yes, roasted. Raw peanuts, in my opinion, don't taste very good. And you can make your own peanut butter using this machine, using the Champion juicer, probably using the Vitamix, I would guess. I use the Nutri-Milk, but you can make your own. It's a lot cheaper. And then we have our cream cheese. We're using Miyoko's because that's what was available. You can easily make your own. Now it's just basically cashews that you ferment overnight. But there's so many brands now, even in regular grocery stores, some healthier than others. There's Tofutti, there's Miyoko's, there's Kite Hills. There's probably more brands than even that, depending on where you live. Or, I mean, this was not always available commercially. So 10 years ago, I would just make my own. Just Google cream cheese with, and it's generally like a cup of cashews, some water, and it's either apple cider vinegar or maybe it's a pinch of salt, but it's very easy to make. And for those with peanut allergies, you can do this with almond butter. So you don't have to have peanut butter if you don't want. Okay, what else goes in here? The date syrup. So in the food processor, we're going to add our ingredients, which are, and again, a very easy recipe. This is my husband, and there's some vanilla powder in here too. This is my husband's favorite recipe, just the peanut butter mousse. Oh, God, I was supposed to make him some before I left. Forgot. I forgot. I bought all the ingredients. So we have date syrup, and the brand that they had here was called Devash, and I'm sure it's really good. I think that the brand I use at home, which is called I Love Date Lady, because it's available at Walmart, I think it might be a little bit sweeter. If you're still eating the standard American diet or a vegan diet that's not SOS free, the desserts that you taste today may not be sweet enough for you. It's just the way it is. There's a concept called neuroadaptation that Dr. Goldhammer may have talked about, but I can tell you what that is, of course. And that the less processed sweeteners you eat, the more you can appreciate subtle sweeteners and the taste of fruit. So we're going to be using tofu. This is firm. I like to use extra firm when I can find it, but if all I can find is soft or firm, then that's all I use. So what you do is these are aseptic packages. They don't need to be refrigerated, although some stores refrigerate them. And if you just follow the little line, it's very easy to open these. And you don't have to keep these in the fridge unless where you bought them, they were refrigerated, so you want to keep them in there. And these come in 12.3-ounce packages. If you're allergic to soy, like me, you can use avocado in equal amounts, and you can make it like that. It's very good. And then we're just going to add our cream cheese. Now, yesterday, there was one of these that said Kite Hill. And when I was making them, I'm putting it in the food processor, and I'm like, why is it so liquidy? And then I realized it was sour cream. So it tasted okay. It was just not quite as thick. So what we did is we made another batch, and we just worked it out, because the motto of my culinary school was it's not what you can make, it's what you can fix. Because sour cream and cream cheese really don't taste all that different. It's just that cream cheese is obviously a little bit thicker. So we're just going to process this. Wait, oh, where are the crumbs that I made? Because I needed some crumbs. Didn't I put some crumbs aside? I know I did. No, they're for me. Yeah. Go. But that's it. See how easy that was? If I wasn't talking, this would be done even quicker. And of course, this is going to thicken as it chills. But this is it's just really, really good. And you can see it's running now because it hasn't chilled. So it's a good idea to scrape the sides down every now and then. And I'm going to just show you how we make it into a parfait. What are all these flies? So what we're going to do, Farm Life, we're going to take a banana, And this is really cool. This was Gail's idea, and I had heard about that before. We have an egg slicer here. So those of you that are vegan but still have one in your drawer, no need to throw it out anymore because you can use it for bananas and you can use it for strawberries. Where's my little tiny knife? There we go. So what we can do is just take a little piece like this, and look at that. Perfect slices every time. Isn't that cool? Yeah, and we can do the same thing with the strawberry. I kind of like it. Mushrooms, too. Another thing you can do. You can do a mushroom this way. Avocado, yeah. So we're just going to slice the banana. So when you're doing this dessert, the banana doesn't have to be overly ripe like it would for, say, banana ice cream or baking, because everything else in the recipe is so sweet. So I don't worry about this. We have a huge vegan community where I live in Northern California, and we have a potluck every month. And I always bring this. I double the recipe, and instead of plating each individually, I just have a trifle bowl, and the presentation, that's, if you look at it in the book, is very, very beautiful. So we're just going to wait on the crumbs, and we're going to plate that for you. While we're waiting for the crumbs, I'll just start putting some of the ingredients into the other food processor for the next recipe, which is the Decadent chocolate mousse. And so I had another volunteer named Maureen taste it this morning, because my concern was it wasn't going to be sweet enough for the masses. I haven't eaten processed sugar since July 6, 2003, so I like my sweets less sweet now. So what I do when I make it for other people is when I like it, then I add like another half cup of date syrup. And when she was tasting it, she goes, boy, this is decadent. And I'm like, well, that's the name of the recipe, Decadent chocolate mousse. In the pot, and this is an induction cooker, which I'm not that familiar with, but Gail is, we have just the date syrup and the 100% chocolate. These are Pacha. There's some other brands that are 100% chocolate, Santa Barbara chocolate. Sometimes Trader Joe's has a brand. Where I live, my Whole Foods and Sprouts have 2 brands of date-sweetened chocolate chips, which are just 3 ingredients, lecithin, chocolate, and dates. It's all good. If you want this sweeter, use the date-sweetened rather than this. I like the bitterness of the chocolate, so hopefully those of you that get the dessert will like it. If you're not really experienced at melting chocolate, you might want to use a double boiler for safety, but we've been doing this all day and we know how to do this, so we can do this here. So while she's doing that, I'm just going to plate the desserts. And what I like to do is I like to start with a little bit of crumbs on the bottom. And you can layer it as many or as few times as you want. And remember, this is going to firm up in the fridge. And then let's put some mousse. And then let's get some bananas. The fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the fruit. And then let's get some more crumbs. Another scoop of mousse. One more layer of bananas. I mean, this would probably, quite honestly, serve 2. Depends how hungry you are. Yeah. A little bit more crumbs. Let's add in with some chopped peanuts. And I'm telling you, these are good. I don't know what the powers that be. You know, we could actually, if there's anybody that didn't make it into the dessert tasting, I sell these to you. I can't throw these at you because, I mean, you know, let's face it, people, glass will break. But we've got these 2 beautiful desserts. So the chocolate mousse is really rich. Each recipe, when we go to Rancho de Puerta, and this is always a recipe in the class, it serves 18. And so they put it in something that's maybe half as big as this, because it's so rich. And then generally I would put some raspberries on top, or maybe some cacao nibs, which I'll do when I get it back. But I'm just going to show you how I like to make a strawberry fan when I make the pies, the rustic fruit pies. So when I'm making the strawberry fan, I'm going to look for the best one I can find, the biggest, the widest one with the prettiest stem. And then to make a strawberry fan, you want to take a small knife, not your chef knife, and just make little cuts that go almost all the way up. putting them as close together as possible without cutting through to the stem. And this also would look great on the chocolate mousse. And then you just press it. And that's basically how you do a strawberry fan. And it's just a very pretty way. And you can get a smaller strawberry would maybe look a little bit different, but you just press it out. And then you have a pretty garnish. And then I'm trying to remember, Ramses Bravo taught me, I go to True North just like for vacation, like other people go to Disneyland. I'm trying to remember, he taught me how to make the strawberry rose. I think you just kind of cut it down like this, and then turn it, this, yeah, that's it, and then turn it, and then you just keep doing layers. You see how I'm doing that all the way around? Get it? And then you can put a stick on, and we're going to do another layer, and then you can put a stick on it, and you can give somebody like a bouquet of strawberry roses. Isn't that pretty? So that's another thing you can do. Just be careful with the knife. So then you just do that. And then the other thing, of course, you can do with the strawberry is if you have the egg slicer, just slice it. So much easier than having to do it by hand. Of course, this one got stuck. There we go. There we go. All right. Perfect. Yeah. I got to work on those. It's been a while since, it's been about a year since I did it. Once I get my crust back, I will show you what to do. The mousse is very, very simple because all we're going to put in here is 2 boxes of tofu. Again, you can use avocado instead. We're going to add our cocoa powder with our vanilla powder. And we're going to add a little bit of non-dairy milk, and they had soy milk, so that's what I'm using. It doesn't matter really what non-dairy milk you use. You just want to get one that's free of, the bad stuff. I think it was a cup of milk, or was it a half a cup? Okay, I can just pour half of it in. Actually, though, those of you that get to taste the mousse, once it chills, because the chocolate has solidified, it's really rich and thick. So if you can make it with a little bit more milk, and that way it'll be more pudding-like, and you can get more servings out of it. So just waiting for the, any questions while we're waiting for the thing? Yeah?
When you put the dates in, did you soak them?
When I put the dates in, did I soak them? No. So the only time I'm going to soak my dates is if I'm making date paste, because otherwise it's going to be too wet. Yeah. And when you make date paste, please don't throw off that water, because that's the good water. So tell her to hurry. I need my blade. And yeah. No, I don't heat when I macerate. Now you could make a compote if you wanted to do that. It's just going to take more time, and then it won't be raw. But I know Chef Bravo, when he does that, he loves to cook his fruit and to cook it down and be syrupy. But you totally can. Yeah. So oats are technically gluten-free, but it's where they're sourced, which is usually gets the cross-contamination. So the way I remember what grains aren't gluten-free is I think of my eyebrows, B-R-O-W-S, barley, rye, oat, wheat, spelt. And generally, those are pretty much the only ones that have gluten, but also couscous has gluten, and there's one other that has gluten. Yeah, farro, exactly. But for the most part, think about all the other grains: sorghum, trichotilley, millet, teff, oats, corn. A lot of the grains, rice, are already inherently gluten-free. Quinoa, for example. But I don't think there's anything about oats that have gluten. It's usually the factory where they're manufactured or the crop where it's grown where there's cross-contamination. So, yeah. Any other? Yes. What do I think of watermelon? Oh, yeah. So many different chefs have many different recipes for date paste. In my book, it's always the same ratio of water to dates for my recipes. So if you throw the water out, you're throwing out the sweetness where the dates have seeped the thing. When you soak nuts, for example, do you soak your nuts, sir? No. Okay. So her chocolate is seizing up, so we want to go as quickly as possible. But yeah, so all the sweetness of the dates have now been in the water. So that water would be great, like to sweeten a hot beverage, but don't throw it out for sure. So let's get that in as soon as possible. This is the thing we didn't. It'll work. Yeah. So we're just going to get that, we're going to process it, and then we're going to just finish up with a lovely fruit tart. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get in what you can, and then, all right, we'll make it work. We will make it work here. Let's just get this processed as soon as possible to get this, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so let's see how this goes. Yeah, it should work. And we want to add our, there we go, it did work. We're going to add our cocoa powder and vanilla powder. So I really recommend vanilla bean powder. It's the brown one, and I just get whatever brand is cheapest on Amazon at the time. I put it in my cart. I watch the prices. Dr. Furman has a great brand. It's $200, not because his is more expensive. It's because he only sells very big bags, which when I got one, it lasted a year. So I usually just get like a 1 ounce bag because it's, look, that's it. Look at how beautiful this is. And do we have a spatula back? Yeah, thanks. So super easy to make. It's, I mean, this is even before it's chilled. And so what we do is we'll put it in a pretty, now, if you're Goldhammer, he would have you put it in this dish. Or really, he would have you not use it at all. So you know, we would get like more, is we have like a small Scoopy-Doo? Okay. So what we can do is this would be very pretty to have it in a little dish like this. This is plenty. I mean, this is so rich that you can't really have much more, to be quite honest. I was never the one that had to plate the desserts at the restaurant. I was a pastry chef for 5 years. We had Arthur do that. So what you can do is just to make it pretty, put a few raspberries on top. Raspberries are pretty in color, and they pair well with chocolate. And then this would also be like, you know, you might have something in your house already, you know, like canning jars, which are also nice for plating. So you don't have to necessarily go buy something else. And of course, mint is always wonderful for desserts. And so what we can do is, for those that really like the bitter chocolate taste, just put this on top. And then the way we finish the pie is this is a miniature one we made. A double recipe made 18. And so then we're just going to take our macerated berries. And again, any leftover berries can just be eaten as a fruit. But, you know, raspberries are my very, very favorite in this. You know, another thing you could do to macerate the berries is, you know, the fruit sweetened jam. Thin that out a little bit, and that would be fantastic. Imagine like raspberry jam with raspberries. And then we like to look for a piece of mint that's got a little bit of prettiness to it. And then we have just our beautiful, I love this dessert. I mean, come on. So that's it. I think my time is up.